Have you ever been in the middle of something important and suddenly your favorite app just stops working? Yeah, me too. You're not alone. Today we're going to dig into why the internet, this thing we rely on for literally everything, seems to be breaking more and more often. All right, let's get into it.
So let's just start with the big question that's probably on your mind, especially if you've been hit by one of these outages recently. You go to check your messages, nothing. You try to buy something, the payment fails. It seriously feels like the whole internet just broke. So what is actually going on?
Well, the thing is, it's not like every single website and app decided to fail all at once. It's way more connected than that. You can think of it like a massive line of dominoes. One falls and it starts a chain reaction. These huge outages we're seeing aren't just random accidents. They're all symptoms of a much bigger, more fundamental problem with how our internet is built from the ground up. And this isn't just a feeling. It's really happening. Just look at the last couple of months. Back in October 2025, Amazon Web Services, or AWS, which tons of companies use, had a major problem that caused chaos. Then, just a month later, Cloudflare went down, and boom, another massive outage that took some of the biggest names on the web with it. And this is what we all saw, that dreaded error message. This wasn't just a small glitch. We are talking about critical services, ChatGPT, social media, news sites, even the systems we use to pay for things, just vanishing into thin air. For a little while, it was like a complete digital blackout. So how can this even happen? How can one or two companies failing cause such a widespread meltdown? Well, the root cause has a name. It's called the centralization crisis, and it's a deep structural flaw in the architecture of the modern web. This quote from a cybersecurity expert just hits the nail on the head. See, the problem isn't really with ChatGPT or X or your favorite app. The problem is that all of them, and thousands of others, are all built on top of the exact same handful of foundational services. So when that single layer fails, everything, and I mean everything built on top of it, comes crashing down. Here's a good way to think about it. It's like a giant game of Jenga. The internet we use every single day is this huge, complicated tower. And companies like AWS and Cloudflare, they're not just any blocks. They are the crucial load-bearing blocks at the very bottom. You pull one of those out, and the entire tower starts to wobble. Okay, so if the internet we have now is basically a shaky Jenga tower, is there a better way to build it? A way to make it stronger? Absolutely. And that's where this idea of a decentralized web comes into play. It is a completely different way of thinking about how the internet should be structured. And this really shows you the night and day difference. Over on one side, you've got our current centralized web. It has these giant single points of failure. It's controlled by a few massive corporations, and as we've seen, it's super vulnerable to outages. But on the other side, you have a decentralized web. It's built for resilience. It's built for what's called user sovereignty. That means you're in charge. The whole point is to build a network where one failure can't bring the whole house down. So this all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in the real world? Well, one company, Linkspreed, is trying to build it with their Arctic hardware initiative. Their goal is to create the actual physical foundation, the nuts and bolts, for a new decentralized internet that's controlled by its users. All right, so let's pop the hood a little bit. How does this hardware actually work? How does it stop the kind of meltdowns we've been talking about? The big idea behind Arctic is to shift the power away from those giant centralized data centers and push it out to the edge of the network, which is, well, you and me. By distributing the computing power, you get rid of that single point of failure. It also means you, the user, can actually host your own applications and have total control, total sovereignty over your own data. So what is this stuff? The first piece of hardware is something called the USIC. It's a special kind of SD card. Now imagine for a second, instead of relying on Google or Apple for all your logins and passwords, you had a single physical key that you own for your entire digital life. That's what the USIC is. It's about giving you sovereign control over your own identity online. The other key piece of this puzzle is Project HUBs. You can think of it as your own personal microserver. It's a small, powerful computer that lets you host your own data, your own apps, right from your home. It's designed to break our dependence on the big tech cloud giants. So you've got this new hardware, you've got this new structure. What does it all add up to? Well, this isn't just about preventing error messages. This is about building the next evolution of the internet. Linkspreed calls this vision Web4. If Web3 was all about decentralized money and finance, Web4 is about building a truly decentralized internet, an internet that's actually owned by its users. Just think about it. Imagine running your own private social network, hosted on your own device, where your data is yours and no one else's. That's the promise here. So, after living through these massive, frustrating outages, the argument for building something new starts to sound a lot less like a crazy experiment and a lot more like an absolute necessity. The idea is that this isn't just a cool tech project, it's a mandate for a stable, sovereign digital future. And that really leaves us with a pretty stark question to think about. Given how fragile our current system clearly is, do we just keep patching it up and hoping for the best? Or is it finally time to get serious about building a decentralized alternative from the ground up? It's a question that's going to define the next chapter of the internet. Thanks for watching.